Somebody has to get this defense figured out.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Boilermakers here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host. I am Nick Arvin. It's your team every day here on Locked On, and this Monday, we've got a reaction because Purdue's defense did not hold up at all against Illinois. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So, like I said, over the weekend, Purdue Cannon game. Illinois, they come in to Ross-Ade into West Lafayette, coming off a game against USC. They face off against the Buckeyes at home this next week. So it felt like the ultimate trap game. It felt like Illinois, they could come in slow, and Purdue could take the best of them. They were 8.5-point favorites, the line I were, when that opened up with our partners at FanDuel. And it felt like Purdue may actually have an opportunity to win this game early. It felt like this may be Barry Odom's statement win, and a one that Purdue fans and Purdue at that, they would love. The players would love that after two tough losses to Notre Dame and USC. And like I said, early on, it looked like this team was ready to go. They drove the ball down the field early. And then inside the goal line, a botched snap, which got to Ryan Browne, and then he was able to take it in for the touchdown. Purdue, they lead 7-0. And it's just crazy, the uncanny ability of Ryan Browne to find plays when they break up against USC. He had that one against Notre Dame, that one with Mockabee. Crazy, Ryan Browne is a dog. That's not at question in this game. So you hold them to 3. And for Purdue's defense, that was a great start. And once again, I say to start this game, I was excited. I was about to tweet out that Purdue could win this game, and I'm glad I held that back. But Purdue, they're up 7-3. They get the ball back, and they're storming down the field. That offense looked hot early. It looked like they were playing with much more intensity than Illinois was out of the gate. They stormed down the field. Ryan Browne, he finds Michael Jackson, and then all of a sudden, Michael Jackson, he fumbles it. We talked about 3 things during the week. 2 of those, not turning the ball over, not letting Hank Beatty for Illinois get involved. And then in the very next play after the turnover, Hank Beatty, He connects with Luke Altmyer, and Beatty had something crazy in this game. He had 186 yards on 5 receptions, averaging out 37 yards and a touchdown, long of 62. So Beatty was all over the place, and that was just the start of Purdue's troubles in this game. Overall, Purdue's defense, they were not good at all. I don't even need to get into the rest of this game. There were good moments, of course. Purdue's offense, they continued to fight back at times. Antonio Harris, he had that big run for 41 and a touchdown. Michael Jackson wasn't all bad, that fumble, but he had 94 yards. He was kind of the lead guy, so not too much on him. It all falls on Purdue's defense in this one. They gave up too many yards, consistently letting Luke Altmyer march down the field, and it wasn't complex stuff that they were running either. They said it on the broadcast, but just RPOs, basic install. Like these are things that you learn day one. Luke Altmyer, he's a senior quarterback for the Illini. You can't expect this guy to be messing up. You can't expect him to be throwing interceptions when you're giving him no pressure at all. And the defensive line, they weren't even bad. The front 7 was fine, stopping the run early. But it's like, when you allow Luke Altmyer, when that secondary, it was all on the secondary. When that secondary allows Luke Altmyer to get involved the way that he did, when they had let Beatty just get free on the sideline in the flat, that's too easy for Illinois. That was too easy for the Illini, and that's why they put 43 points up on you. It's just what it is. You can't win games that way. You can't win games for Purdue, and this has been a lingering thing now. Going into Notre Dame, you thought that, hey, maybe this Irish offense is just really good. And then you see Illinois, they get held to under 10 by Indiana. So you're thinking, hey, maybe we're going to be solid. This defense coming off the bye week, they're going to be refreshed. They're going to be ready to take on Illinois. We talked about that defensive identity that Barry Odom and the staff, they were trying to get figured out during during the bye week after Notre Dame, and then you give up 507 yards. Just not a great day. But opening up, it looked fine. That Purdue defense, they looked good. They were able to stop the run, keep it fairly contained. But as the game kept going on, as Luke Altmyer continued to get involved, as Purdue continued to give Luke Altmyer more opportunities, then eventually Valentine, he was able to get it going on the ground game because you had to play pass every time. And when you were playing pass, you still weren't able to stop the Illini. So just overall for Purdue, it was kind of death by 1,000 cuts for the Boilermakers, and then specifically for that defense. And then in the press conference following this game, Barry Odom, he wasn't happy at all because he wanted to win this game. We know kind of what this rivalry is, how Purdue has predominantly dominated this one, 3-1 in the past 4 years. You know what this rivalry means. It's not Purdue, Indiana, but it's Purdue, Illinois. It's a game that primarily high scoring, always going to have a shootout, always going to be a fun game. Barry Odom knows that, and he knows that it was the opportunity for him and his roster to get a statement win. And he also knows that his roster, they didn't come out to play, specifically that defense, specifically that secondary. They didn't come to play. They were not prepared. And as the head coach, that falls on him. I'm not calling for Barry Odom's job. I still think that he has a lot to prove. I think that these next 3 games we'll talk about in the next segment, I think they're going to be pivotal for seeing where Barry Odom is, seeing where the status of this program is. But I wasn't impressed with the preparation for where that defense was. I wasn't at all. I know you don't have your top DB. I know that those wide receivers for Illinois have you a bit outmatched in the secondary. Either way, but still, I don't care who you have on the field. You got to have your guys a little bit more prepared than letting Luke Altmyer throw for 390 yards, 19 for 22. You only allowed 3 incompletions. It's just unacceptable. You can't play a winning brand of football that way. You can't give up that many passing yards, allow that many completions, allow Illinois to move up the field at the level that they did. You're not going to win games if you're Purdue giving up 43 points, because I love Ryan Browne. I love what's going on with this offense, and I think that they're going to be good going into the future. But you don't have an offense that can put up 44 points for you right now. You just don't. So that defense, they're a liability, and that absolutely has to be fixed ASAP going into Minnesota. Minnesota, they're going to try to throw it on you. That's just going to be what Purdue is going to see the rest of this year, because you put on tape that Luke Altmyer and the Illini, albeit that's a ranked team, but Luke Altmyer and the Illini were able to throw for as many yards as they wanted. If this game continued to extend on, Luke Altmyer would throw for 200 more yards. That's how dominant Luke Altmyer and this Illini team was. That's how dominant Luke Altmyer and this passing attack was against Purdue on Saturday. It was bad. It was really bad. It was embarrassing. It was one where Purdue, they weren't favored to win. Not a lot of people thought that Purdue was going to win. But after the start of that game, after having the opportunity to go up 14-3, I was going to tweet this out too. Purdue, they were live line favorites. They were favorites live at the point where they were about to go up 14-3 on that drive. They had the opportunity. They squandered it. And then everything went Illinois' way after that. And it's not because of any luck. It was because Purdue's defense, they weren't prepared for this game. So you got to bounce back. That's all you can do. This defense, they have to prove that they are capable of bouncing back. They have to prove that they can stop somebody, because if not, it's going to be a long year. And I know I've been very optimistic about this football program, and I think that there's things to be optimistic about. I think that this offense, I think that the pieces going into the future, Antonio Harris, whether that be Ryan Browne, the future of this program, there are things to be optimistic about. Right now, you don't have the defense to win games of this caliber, but you got to get there. Getting Tony Grimes back healthy, he's your corner number 1. That would be huge for you. But overall, this team needs to be more prepared. This defense needs to be more prepared going into Minnesota this week. We'll talk about Minnesota, that game on Saturday, and a couple more games that have to be won in this month of October, the most pivotal month of the season. These games in October are must win if Barry Odom wants to turn this program around. We'll talk about it. Stick with us here next. Today's episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right way, and corrects your form, making every rep smarter and safer. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Purdue's defense absolutely needs to improve because they have 3 games that they absolutely need to win in this month of October. And I do think that they are must wins. I think that you need to at least get 2 out of here. You need to at least have 4 wins going into this last month of the season for this year to be deemed respectful at the end of the year. Because when you look at the schedule, the last month of the year at Michigan versus Ohio State, at Washington, who should be ranked, and versus Indiana, those are all games that they're all going to be ranked matchups where you're facing off against a ranked opponent. All those are tough. Best teams in the Big Ten. That's a tough stretch. So this month you have at Minnesota this Saturday night at 6:30, 7:30 Eastern, Big Ten Network, at Northwestern, and versus Rutgers. And to say these are must wins, well, normally when you say that, it's a big game. And when you look at Rutgers, Northwestern, those aren't the hugest games. But that's why they're so big for Purdue. You have to beat up on these opponents. You have to prove that you're a tier above Minnesota, Rutgers, Northwestern, because I believe Purdue is. I believe that they've had a gauntlet. USC, Notre Dame, Illinois. That's a tough open to your Big Ten play. Obviously, Notre Dame, not a Big Ten team, but either way, this is a stretch where you seriously do have some winnable games coming up. And just looking at this Minnesota game, I think this one is going to be so key, kind of into determining where Purdue is going to be. And they open up as bigger dogs against Minnesota than they did against Illinois. So Purdue not being respected at all. And for what it's worth, that defense didn't deserve any respect, but they open up as 9.5 dogs against Minnesota. And for Minnesota, I assume that they're going to try to stretch out this Purdue defense with Lindsey. He's been solid for Minnesota this year. They didn't really know that they would have the passing attack this year that they did, but they did. And they're 3-2 on the year. 2 wins early on, not against great opponents, Buffalo, Northwestern. They lose big against Ohio State. They lose at California, and they barely squeak one out against Rutgers. I'm kind of confused right now, honestly, on why this spread is at 9.5 in favor of Minnesota. Because I thought Minnesota looked solid when I watched them earlier in the year, but Minnesota, they haven't done anything special in order to warrant being 10-point favorites over Purdue. Purdue, they've lost 3 games in a row, but those 3 games, they were against big opponents, like I said. But you need to cut that 3-game losing streak. Absolutely. It needs to begin now. It needs to begin against Minnesota. You got to pull this upset off. And I think Purdue, I think they can do it because I think that they have the offense to be able to take on Minnesota's defense. That defense struggled in previous weeks. Minnesota, they definitely have the offense to beat Purdue's defense. So I think this may be another high-scoring game, as most Purdue games will likely be this year when you can't stop anybody throwing the ball. There's a lot of question marks for Purdue right now. There's a lot of question marks for this football team, and there's a lot of things that need to get figured out. But you have the opportunity to give yourself a bigger margin for error if you can win this game. Because if you win this game, I like your chances facing off against Northwestern, and then absolutely against Rutgers. That's one that you can win. But if you can string 2 wins together here, and it starts with Minnesota. This is going to be the toughest game out of this 3-game stretch at Minnesota. And I'm sure that maybe being on the road, that may give Minnesota a little bit more of an edge in terms of the betting line. Not sure. I still think that's crazy, but this is going to be your biggest one at Minnesota Saturday. This is going to be a make or break game for the rest of the year. If you lose that one, we may be in for a long season. And honestly, Barry Odom, he may have to retain some guys in the transfer portal this year. We may not have the roster of pieces of young guys to develop going into the next year if you don't win these games. because 1-11 last year was bad. But if you can't start winning games, I mean, you have 2 wins right now. It doesn't get much easier going into November. These wins start to get tough. You got to start winning now. For Purdue, it starts at Minnesota. It starts this Saturday. For your offense, stay consistent. I think that Purdue's offense, what they brought out against Illinois, obviously you got to limit those turnovers. You have to limit the turnovers, especially in big moments. And I'm not putting the blame on Michael Jackson. I know I said that in the last time. It was a tough hit. It was one of those where hand or helmet, it hits on the ball flies out. There's not much you can do about it. It was kind of a bad break for Purdue. He lands on the ball. It was a really bad break. It was one that had to be reviewed. I'm not going after Michael Jackson. He's been one of the better players for Purdue. He's been consistent at that wide receiver position, more consistent than Armand Branch, who I want to see from again. But we need to be consistent if you're the Purdue offense. Stay consistent, stay ready, and don't turn the ball over. If you're the receivers, you need to continue to be good. For Michael Jackson, continue to find looks, continue on third down to get yourself available. For Armand Branch, I want you to step back. Or not step back. I want you to step up if you're Armand Branch. You didn't have a great game against Illinois. You should have had a better game against Illinois. Armand Branch, we know that you are capable of making the plays necessary to win games, but you have to prove it. You showed it in the first couple weeks. You showed that you're capable of winning games for Purdue. You showed opening drive against Ball State that you were capable of doing that when you took it all away. But for Armand Branch, 2 catches, 9 yards, that's unacceptable. For Devin Mockabee, you got to continue to get it going. This offense, you have to carry this defense somehow. They're not ready. This defense is not ready. And I say that you need to have them prepared. And if you're the head coach, if you're this coaching staff, defensive coordinators, you got to get it figured out. You have to somehow put a defense on the field going into Minnesota that's capable of allowing your offense an opportunity to win the game. Against USC, that was the case. 33 points given up against USC, a pick 6 by Ryan Browne. Ryan Browne, they wouldn't have won without Ryan Browne. They wouldn't have lost without Ryan Browne because he throws 3 interceptions. He also throws for 300 yards. So that's in the past. But going forward into now, your defense has to give you another opportunity for your offense to win a game. That's how it's going to have to be. The offense has to stay consistent. That defense, the coaches have to get these guys ready. Have to get them. I don't need a top defense in the Big Ten. I don't need a defense capable of taking down the Buckeyes. I need a defense capable of playing the Gophers good enough so that Ryan Browne, so that Michael Jackson, so that Armand Branch can make a play. I need this defense to stay off the field long enough that Purdue's offense can start to capitalize on opportunities so that Purdue's offense can start to get in a flow. Because the defense, they've been the detriment. And this offense, they don't put up as many points as you need to win, but you shouldn't have to put up 44 points to win a ball game. That's not how it should be. That's not how this team should have ever been. For Barry Odom, he's always been, we're going to play hard-nosed football. Linebacker, Missouri University. This is a guy that knows how to play defense. He's wanted to build an identity on this team for it. And the linebackers, they're good. Charles Carrera, Manny Powell. These are guys going into the future that are going to be so solid. They're going to be amazing for this defense. But right now, the secondary doesn't have it. They got to get it figured out because if not, you're going to lose to Minnesota. And then I don't know if you can carry momentum going forward after that. Right now, Minnesota is the most important game into deciding where the season goes. And then with that, deciding where Barry Odom goes. Where is his seat hot? I wouldn't say it's hot after 1 year, but what if you go 2-10? I'm not throwing that out there. But the conversations for Barry Odom get a lot more complicated after every loss. I didn't expect him to beat Illinois, but these wins need to start coming, and they need to start coming quick. It starts with Minnesota. We'll have that game covered through Saturday. Check us out every day. But let's shift it over to thinking this past Saturday. What happened? Penn State went down. We'll talk that, all the games. Stick with us. We got that here next. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home. Whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. When we show up as a community, it can mean big business for local business owners. Money spent in the neighborhood, it stays in the neighborhood. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you go, support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because I can bet however I want. Live bet, parlay, future. It doesn't matter. With FanDuel, I can do it, and you can do it too. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So Purdue goes down to Illinois. Crazy game, but it wasn't even the craziest game of the weekend, and no one was really thinking about Purdue losing to Illinois right after it happened because, boy, oh boy, was there an upset of all upsets. One of the biggest upsets we've seen in recent years in the Big Ten, and that was Penn State going down to UCLA. UCLA, they get their first win in the Big Ten, first win of the year against the Penn State Nittany Lions. And for James Franklin, oh my gosh, you had some question marks after the loss to Oregon when your wideout didn't go the way that you expected. And then to follow that up against UCLA, to lose against what was the worst team in the Big Ten. Now we don't know. Just terrible. And for Drew Aller, you didn't make enough plays. You weren't bad by any means, but you didn't make the plays for your team to win. And I know you have to say it, but to say that there's no doubt you guys are going to make it to the college football playoff, you don't have the right to say that in your position. You just lost your team. The game against UCLA, you guys dig yourself into a hole 3-2. The question marks about your coach's job security, and to say that, didn't love that look. I'm a big Drew Aller guy. I like what he does. I thought that he was a Heisman candidate going into this year, but he just hasn't impressed me so far. But Purdue's opponent, Minnesota, taking on Ohio State. Not much to look at in this one. Ohio State handled Minnesota. Julian Sayin is really starting to step up and be that next great Ohio State quarterback. People think he's capable of it. We'll have to see. I think that he can really operate an offense, though. He's really starting to fire up. Minnesota, although not the best defense in the Big Ten, nor will Purdue be, but we'll definitely see Julian Sayin. We'll see Minnesota on Saturday. Wisconsin and Michigan. This was a fun one because Wisconsin, they were up in this one to start. They were 7-0 when Purdue was 7-0 at the noon slot early game. Wisconsin, they just got to get their offense going. Honestly, they lose this one 10-24. And for Wisconsin, they haven't been bad. I don't think that Fickle deserves any hot seat at all. I think that he's been fine. The schedule they have this year is a gauntlet, so they may not make a bowl game. That's still to be determined. But the defense is good. The offense isn't great. Bryce Underwood, much like Julian Sayin, he's kind of starting to develop into his own. I like to see the development. I like these young guys starting to develop, spring out. I like to see just new people take on historic programs. I know Purdue's going to have to face off against some of these guys, but it's still fun to see new draft prospects in the future. Bryce Underwood is certainly that guy. Of course, Illinois, they beat Purdue. Purdue's defense was sloppy in that one. Washington versus Maryland. This is one I was pretty surprised by because Maryland, they held Jonah Coleman to just 57 yards and a touchdown. And although that's good for some running backs, that's not good for Jonah Coleman. Maryland is a team to watch. They're 4-1 on the year. They lose to Washington, but Washington is a lot better than anybody will give them respect for. Maryland is starting to look a lot better than anybody will give them respect for. And let's talk about Malik Washington, because this guy may be the future, has all the physical attributes. And if he can start to put it together, he's talented as all get out. I think that he could be special. I think that Maryland may be a program to watch going into the future. Northwestern, they beat University of Louisiana Monroe. Uh, we'll see if Preston Stone will have it together before heading down to, or that game's in Illinois, I believe, against Northwestern. Anyways, last game of the day was Michigan State and Nebraska. Nebraska's offense starting to put things together. 4-1. That schedule's so easy. Not a tough schedule at all this year for Nebraska, but hey, I mean, what are you going to do? Dylan Raiola, not the best game, 194 yards. He was fine. Completed 2/3 of his passes. He was fine. I mean, not much more you can ask for if you're a Cornhuskers fan, and not more you can ask for if you're a Big Ten fan, because this slate certainly lived up to the expectations. That Penn State loss was absolutely insane. I couldn't believe it. And before we head out today, I'm about to head out, but one more note. I saw a tweet about this today. Let me try to pull it up. But Purdue's schedule next year is honestly really light. I just thought about it right now because of Nebraska. But Purdue really has an opportunity. If Ryan Browne and some of these guys stick with this program next year, they can take a jump because they're out of conference. Wake Forest, Indiana State, and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's a tough game. I'll pull it up on my phone. I can't find the conference opponents, and I don't know if this is totally accurate. I don't know if this is 100% confirmed, but it was a tweet. That's Indiana State week 1, Wake Forest week 2. Those are all winnable games. And the conference opponents are Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, which is a new one, Penn State, tough, but who knows with James Franklin. Maryland, that'll be a good team next year. Minnesota, Washington, Wisconsin, and of course UCLA. I mean, obviously, it's going to be a tough Big Ten schedule. Just thought I'd throw it in there before we headed out today because there's a lot to look forward going into the future. I know things may seem tough after the Illinois loss, but things go away if you win 3 straight. You can start out 5-3 on the year. Things can still go up for Purdue. If they lose this week, now we may need to start judging them. I'm not going to judge them yet because they haven't lost a game where they've been favored. So we'll see. We'll have more college basketball all week long. Fun times. 19, when this episode comes out, 18 days until Purdue versus Kentucky. I can't hardly wait. So we'll have that all week long. If you guys are just checking us out for the first time here on Locked On Boilermakers, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and make sure to comment because we're bringing daily content every single day on Locked On Boilermakers. That helps us out a ton. And another exciting moment for Locked On and Fire TV present college football kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Once again, thank you guys for joining us. Have a great Monday. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.